Hey guys, what's going on? And I'm just here to review a standard blue-black zombie deck I made. It's not complete 100% original. Maybe original as in like how I built it or different cards I used, but the inspiration I got was from the guy Brian, who was in the Pro Tour for Eldritch Moon this summer, and he used a blue-black zombie deck, and he had some different cards, and I didn't exactly see like how it worked. I just saw like a little bit. I saw like a few rounds he played with the other guy, but here's what I put together. So for creatures, I got Crypt Breaker, and he casts for 1 swamp zombie. You tap 2, tap him, discard a card, and put a 2/2 black zombie token. And then you can tap 3 untapped zombies you control, draw a card, but you lose 1 life. He's only 1/1, but for his ability, that's pretty good. I got Forgotten Creation. Costs 4, he's blue. From the Shadows over Innistrad is Skulk. He is 3/3, so Skulk may or may not come in handy. Depends on who you're playing. Depends on if your opponent has stronger creatures. And depends on, I guess, just maybe if your opponent has a defender even that has more power than this guy, Forgotten Creature, then they can't block him. It does have at the beginning of your upkeep, you can discard your entire hand to draw that many cards. So, if you're looking for a certain technique that I have around my deck here that I'll get to, I'll explain why I like that version. I have 2 advancing Stitchwings, cost 5, Eldritch Moon set. It's flying. You tap 3, discard 2, and then return this guy from your graveyard onto the field tapped. And it's 3/4 and flying. Just a flying zombie card. I have no other sorry about that. I have no other thoughts about the card other than it's flying, and you can return it for 3 mana onto the field. Now, here's why I like Forgotten Creation's ability, because of this guy. 2 of these guys. The Liliana's Elite, cost 3. Zombie, Eldritch Moon. He gets 1/1 for each creature in the graveyard, and he starts the 1/1. So, that's not like, it doesn't say, I've looked this up, but it doesn't say when it enters a battlefield or until the end of turn. So, unless I'm wrong on how the card works, I'm pretty sure you can use the majority of your creatures in your graveyard as graveyard fodder for Liliana's Elite. So, what does that mean? You have 20 creatures altogether, not including your copies of Liliana's Elite. You can have a 20/20 creature if you want to do it that way. It's not wise by any means, because you need more creatures, and you need sorceries and instances and other things to make a balanced deck, but I'd say that's pretty good. It's a later card game, and if you have enough creatures in your graveyard, you can keep adding creatures, especially if you're up against an aggro deck. They keep killing creatures off. Well, if they don't get rid of Liliana's elite because they don't have anything strong enough to kill it with like an instant or sorcery, then he's just going to keep getting pumped up. For the next card, I have 4 Laboratory Brutes. He casts for 4 Zombie Horror, Eldritch Moon. When he enters, you put 4 cards in your graveyard on top of your library. From the top of your library to your graveyard. So, why is that beneficial? I think, again, for this case in particular, Liliana's Elite, I tested it out. It seems to be like hit or miss, in my opinion. If you have a Laboratory Brute, you play it down, you draw, and they're all lands, or some of them are sorcery, you know. And if you don't have any way of getting those back, then you're kind of screwed. You just wasted 4 cards because you wanted to pump up Liliana's Elite, per se. So you need other things to get those cards back. Which I did not have any available, so I did not put cards in my deck that would obtain instances, sorceries, or lands, or whatever. But there are a lot of cards with Delirium in my deck here, so we'll get to that. I have 4 Igneous Scabs. Cast for 3 Eldritch Moon, Zombie Horror. He does have prowess, so that's good. And you can tap an island here and pump him up for 1/1 until end of turn. So, you know, you swing in for an attack, and you have islands at your disposal that are not tapped yet. Tap, you know, you pump them up. It's pretty good. And if you have all 4 of them out, they all attack, they all have the pumps. Sounds really odd. Gavany Unhallowed. Cast for 4 Eldritch Moon Zombie. When someone dies, when a creature dies, then you put a 1/1 counter. I think it's pretty decent, especially if you're hoping for fodder. Then that would be pretty worth it. But at the same time, like that, Gavany Unhallowed and Liliana's Elite are pretty much the creatures that are going to get pumped up, which I'm totally fine with. It seems to work. It seems to be effective, and I tested it out against a vampire deck that I made that I was pretty confident about, and it just cannot get through this one. So I don't know what it is that I did. I'm pretty impressed with how I made this deck. So let's get down to the sorceries. So we got Rise from the Grave, cast for 5 Eldritch Moon. So you take a creature card from a graveyard, doesn't specify whose, just says a graveyard, and then you bring it back as a black zombie as in addition to its other color and types. So I don't know if someone has a planeswalker. Actually, scratch that. If someone has like pretty powerful creature in their graveyard that you got rid of, you have this. Does it bring it back as the same creature? It's just a zombie now, but it still has its abilities. It still has its attack and toughness, I know that. But if it's like a creature with a really good ability and you want, does it come back with its ability? I have not looked this up. So I will have to do that. But if any of you know exactly how the creature comes back, then let me know. It says, creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. All it says. Doesn't say anything about still obtains abilities, still obtains power and toughness, which you assume is how it is brought back. If it's a 10/10 creature, it comes back as a 10/10 creature. It's just a zombie now. Like if someone has Ulamog, does it come back as Ulamog, except now it's a zombie, not an Eldrazi. It still has indestructible, all those things. Shamble Black, it's a pretty good 1-drop sorcery. Comes from the Shadows over Innistrad. You just exile a creature card and put a 2/2 zombie token and you gain 2 life. I think it's pretty worth it. Especially if you have, laboratory brutes and other cards milling your deck. And you're putting creatures in your graveyard and say, okay, well I need a easy creature. It's just a 2/2 zombie. Boom, you got a token. Obviously, it's not going to be a first turn thing unless you somehow manage to do that. I'm pretty sure there's a combination to get around that. Excuse me. We have Liliana's Indignation. Cost X and a swamp. It's from the Shadows over Innistrad set. So X equals the number of cards on top of your library that you put in your graveyard, and the opponent loses 2 life for each creature you put in your graveyard. So it's another way to pump up Liliana's Elite if you want, but then again, this card is a hit or miss. So you can mill pretty much, I don't know, if you only want to try for 1 card, you can do for 1 card. If you do for 5 cards, you can do for 5. But it's a hit or miss kind of card. The way your deck is shuffled, it's going to be beneficial. You don't cheat when you play this card. If you know you have this card, don't cheat to where you have most of your creatures on top of your library. So you can play it, and then boom, your opponent loses 20 life in 1 turn, But that could happen. And then this card has been controversial. I would say in a good way, not so much negative controversy. And I've had trouble figuring out for a while, but I think I got it. Now we have Dark Salvation. It costs XX and a black. Eldritch Moon, so target player puts X 2/2 zombie, black zombie creature tokens on the field, and then a creature gets -1/1 for each zombie that player controls. So, first of all, what you're dealing with is 2 X's, which means you gotta tap for both X's. So it's 1 mana for 1 X, 1 mana for the other X. So if you tap 2 and a black, then you get 1 zombie token. See, I'm having trouble understanding why that's a thing. Why not just tap 1 and 1 black for 1 zombie token? But what then makes sense in my head is like, oh, okay, you're tapping for both X's. I get it. At the same time, not really. Or you could just tap for the swamp cost, and if you already have zombie creatures, like in this deck, I'll have zombie creatures already. There's already cards of mine that create zombie tokens. So if I don't have zombie creatures, then sure, I'll play this. But I'll probably already have zombies. So I can just tap for one, and target creature gets how many, loses that much power and toughness for zombies I have. I did watch a video yesterday about, someone saying if they made it an instant, the game would be broken, and I do agree with that because I think it's a pretty good way of getting rid of Emrakul if you're aiming for that. If someone has Emrakul and you're playing a zombie deck and you want to get rid of her, she's immune to instances. This is a sorcery. Dark Salvation. Do you have 13 zombies on the field? If you do, see you later. That's how I think. And also they didn't want it to be target player loses that much, because that also would break the game. Got 2 Macabre Waltz. I got the Liliana dancing with the zombie art instead of the really bloody mess version. I don't remember what set it's from, but pretty gross. You just return 2 target creatures from your graveyard or the discard a card. It's a prettier artwork than the other one. If you know what I'm talking about, it's really gross. I don't know what the hell is going on in that picture. Like, these people are just looking like they have blood all over each other and they're in a pit. Just like, what is going on? How does that waltz? How does that entitle a waltz thing? 2 Cemetery Recruitments cost 2. You return a target creature from your graveyard to your hand. If it happens to be a zombie, you draw a card. I think that's pretty good. And then 2 to contingency plans. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video here. So you put the top 5. You look at the top 5 cards of your library. You put any number of them in your graveyard, and the rest on top of your library in any order. So again, if you have Liliana's Elite on the field, you play contingency plan, you happen to draw a few creatures, you can just mill those into your graveyard and save the other cards for later. I think it's a pretty good maneuver. And then for instances, I just have 2 compelling deterrences. You just return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then if that player discards a card if you control a zombie. So obviously I'm going to be controlling zombies in my deck here. And then 2 enchantments. Graph Harvest. Zombies I control have menace. Then you tap for exile a creature from your graveyard and put a black zombie token. So it's like Shambles, but it costs more. And then for artifacts, let's see. I just have 2 Soul Separators. It's a pretty good one. So it costs 3 to play, and then it costs 5 mana, and you have to tap this. You sacrifice it, and then exile a creature from your graveyard. Then you put a 1/1 spirit token on the field, and then you put a black zombie creature token that has equal power and toughness to that card that you exile. My question is, does it, even though it's a token, does it still obtain that card's abilities? Probably not, but it was worth. It's a good question. Sorry for this stupid maneuver. So then obviously I have blue and black mana and a few multicolored. I got like a few small backwaters. You comes in tapped, you gain a life. And then I got like another one that doesn't give you life, but it still comes in tapped. And then for my sideboard here, I have 3 Seagrass Scabs, cost 2. Just a normal creature with some fancy flavor or flavor tech. I have 3 Stitch Minglers, cost 3. When he enters the battlefield, he enters tapped, and also you tap the creature your opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during its untap zone. So very blue-like of them. Then we have another scab, Stitchwing Scab. I think I just had like oh, I just noticed that it's a different Stitchwing Scab. Same ability as the advanced Stitchwing Scab, just yeah. It's just, I guess, a little weaker. I don't know. And then we got 2 Corpse Charms. You put 3 cards on top of your library into your graveyard, then you turn a creature card into your hand. We have 2 Bone Splinters. You sacrifice a creature to destroy one. And then we have 3 Altar Reaps. You do the whole sacrificing creature, but you draw 2 cards. And it has Obelisk the Tormentor. That's who is on it. So that is my blue-black zombie deck that I have. Is it good? I think so, from testing it for a few decks that I have made. I hope it's worth using if I get to use it in the standard. So we will see how it plays, and I will let you guys know. Wow, I'm gassy today, but you probably didn't need to know that. Have a good day.